Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by. Thought I would do a reading update for today. Guess we're at September 8th, 2025, and just talk about some books I'm reading at the moment. So I guess I'll start out with I wanted to read some haunted house novels as we move into the fall season. So right now I'm reading on my phone actually The House Next Door by Darcy Coates. This is it's very PG-13, maybe even PG. It's not too intense for a haunted house story, although it might get more intense. The story is about it's narrated by a woman who, as the title suggests, lived next. There's a haunted house next to her, and she's closely watching what's happening there. She has a new neighbor, another young woman who has, I guess, a crazy ex-boyfriend who's not leaving her alone, and she's also learning more about the history of this house and things like that. So, I mean, it moves well. It isn't too bad so far, but I'm about halfway through it, and like I said, it's a good starter, I think, for haunted house books because it's not too intense, but I think it gets you into the vibe anyway of haunted house books. So that's one that I'm reading. I also picked this one up a few weeks ago. This is a novelization of the film Outland. Alan Dean Foster, science fiction movie from 1981, I believe, set at a space station in the Jupiter system. It's kind of a western, but with a sci-fi edge to it, setting to it. Like I said, a famous movie with Sean Connery. This book is not in the best shape. It was really cheap. It cost like $1, but it is readable, and I like Alan Dean Foster. You know, his whenever I can find a novelization from that era, I usually will want to read it at some point. So those are two novels I'm looking at. And I'm also still going through this, The Power Broker by Robert Caro. I made some decent progress this week. I'm up to page 116 on this book about the very powerful city developer of New York City throughout the 20th century, and enjoying it so far. It's a very immersive book. I mean, Caro throws so much detail, so much description at you, but at the same time, he never, I think, loses sight of some of the main ideas in the book. And I just wanted to get a little bit to what the book's about. One of the things that it's going for is how powerful Robert Moses was, and that he was never elected to an office at all. And yet he commanded so much influence in New York City in the mid 20th century. And this is just an excerpt from the introduction. When there's a new mayor was elected, Robert Wagner in 1954, and Moses, extremely powerful by this time, was not appointed to this committee, a very important committee, and Moses made his displeasure known, and it quickly sent ripples through the city government. And this is just a part Carol wrote here. Let's see. When the curtain rose on the next act of Moses' life, idealism was gone from the stage. In its place was an understanding that ideas, dreams, were useless without power to transform them into reality. So that's a big theme in the book, where idealism's great. It's great to have ideas, but they are useless without power, attaining power to bring them to reality. Moses spent his life amassing power, bringing to the task imagination, iron will, and determination, and he was successful. The oath that was administered to Robert Wagner in City Hall on January 1st, 1954, should have given Wagner supreme power in New York, who had just been elected mayor. That was the theory. In democratic America, supposedly, ultimate power rests in the voters. and the man for whom a majority of them cast their votes is the repository of that power. But Wagner knew better. The spectators may have thought they had a choice in dealing with Moses, but he knew that they did not. Why, when Moses pushed the appointment blank across his desk, did the mayor not say a word? Possibly because there was nothing to say. Power had spoken. So there is this idea throughout the book of someone having so much power, never been elected to a post, and seemingly is free of all of those obstacles one must get to attain power. So that's a big theme in the book. And also, as Caro sets out the introduction, is the long-term consequences of what Moses did for New York. He did incredible things. He oversaw incredible highways, housing, developed the suburbs, built bridges. Everything he did was very modern, but at the same time, the lower class people of New York did not do well under Moses. Their conditions got much worse. What Robert Moses did. Specifically, Caro focuses on, and he'll get into this more, about, unhousing people to build highways and to build roads and transportation systems and things like that. So yeah, that's one of the big overarching ideas in the book. And where I'm at now, in the page 116, I'm in the early 1920s now, where Moses was very successful. He went to Yale, went to Oxford as well, was recognized as with a brilliant mind. He wanted to get into city government, was really his goal. And initially he worked with civil service reform, okay? And that's another thing, thinking about nonfiction writing, and how Caro, the task of him as a writer, how do you make an issue like civil service reform interesting and engaging to a reader? We're talking about 1915, 1916, like this era. And Caro was involved, or Moses was involved with setting up a system that was a meritocracy. Part of his idealism was because there was so much nepotism in city government, the Tammany Hall, political machine. This is a time where political machines were very powerful, would basically bring all their people in, and Moses wanted to get rid of all that, take on the machines, and create a meritocracy. And he developed this system of evaluating city workers, which was very complex and almost authoritarian in some ways, is how the demands he was going to ask of the city workers to do it. Well, anyway, that never went beyond the planning stages. The machine did not approve of that, and Moses failed in that initial effort he spent many years on trying to bring civil service reform to New York City. And then after that, he was out of work for a while, and then was brought into the state government and worked with reforming the bureaucracy of the state government, which sounds really boring talking about it, where you had like over hundreds of committees and departments, and the task was to try to whittle them down to like 16 bigger departments, and he was working with that. And that also he did not get too far with that massive attempt at reforming the bureaucracy, the state government. And where I'm at now is Moses fell into the circle of Al Smith, who was governor of New York, the state of New York, in the early 1920s. Al Smith would be the Democratic presidential candidate in 1928. I believe the first Catholic to be on a major ticket, I believe, Al Smith. And Smith is starting to take Moses into his confidence, recognizing him as someone with the future, and someone that he can maybe be very useful to him in the future. And whereas Moses came from this very upper class background in New York City. His parents were quite wealthy, and Al Smith was the total opposite of that, where Caro gives us a long sketch of Smith, Irish, grew up Irish in New York City, very poor family, could not finish school, had to start working at 14, 15 to support his family. So, and yet Smith rose in New York politics and was also kind of a machine politician as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out between this odd couple of Moses and Al Smith. So anyway, that's where I'm at with The Power Broker. And one more book, I also picked this up today. I've been wanting to read this one. It's called The Soul of Wes Craven, about the filmmaker, by Joseph Maddrey. This is, I know the author worked a long time on this book, a lot of research, a lot of work on Wes Craven, famous director of horror films, and but also a very interesting and someone who made really 3 really important horror films. The Last House on the Left in the early 1970s, of course Nightmare on Elm Street in the 1980s, the first film, and Scream in the 1990s. And this book is a really immersive biography of Wes Craven, and the author also had some access to Wes Craven before he died in 2015. So that'll be a good read. I'll probably get through this one fairly quickly, but so yeah, looking forward to getting through this one. So I guess that's all I have. Those are some reading updates for now. If anyone has any thoughts on The Power Broker or any of the books I've mentioned, be great to hear them. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.